In today's video, I want to go over all of the news about Anthem 2.0 and another Mass Effect game reportedly being in the works over at BioWare. I know BioWare is a studio that's been under fire with a lot of criticism, and probably rightfully so. However, I personally would love to see them get back and return back to form of what we knew and loved from BioWare, so I do want to take a look at all of this news. Also, Ben's studio talks on a potential Days Gone sequel and noting that this is a world we want to keep breathing more life into, not closing the door on a Days Gone 2 at all, so we'll talk all about that. We'll talk that at the end of this video. And before we get into everything, I just want to remind you guys to make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the bell notification icon so you are always notified of uploads, and that definitely helps out the channel too, so we always appreciate that. First up, 2019 was not a banner year for BioWare. Anthem, one of the hotly anticipated games heading into the year, was a very big disappointment, and of course, the recent cancellation of most of the game's promised post-launch content certainly seems to point in the direction of the game being done away with. However, according to reliable Kotaku insider Jason Schreier, BioWare hasn't given up just yet. In fact, a sizable chunk of the studio is said to be working towards a relaunch of the game in Anthem 2.0, so to speak. BioWare is looking to revamp numerous things about Anthem, including its loot, missions, difficulty, and social features. Perhaps the biggest change being considered pertains to the structure of the game's world. Anthem has a single open world, which has caused a lot of headaches when it comes to updating the game. BioWare is considering splitting the world into smaller chunks, which would make it easier to tinker with individual areas. There's no timeline for when Anthem 2.0 might arrive. In fact, BioWare reportedly isn't even sure how they want to deliver the changes, a series of smaller updates a la No Man's Sky, or a big game altering expansion like Final Fantasy XIV did with Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn, or Bungie did with Destiny. Apparently, releasing the update as a whole new game is even being considered. I don't know if I would necessarily agree with that. The thing with Destiny from Destiny 2 is it's not like Destiny was this widely panned game. Sure, Destiny had its issues, but Destiny also got better and better through free and paid updates, so you can't compare Destiny to Anthem just because the reception to those games were quite different. And Destiny, you're talking about a game being done by Bungie. In the case of Anthem, that's a game that is just gonna have that EA label attached to them. Yes, I know Destiny was published by Activision, and you can make a lot of the qualms about Activision like you can with EA. However, it is a little bit different, given that it was Bungie's first title away from Microsoft, and there is a little bit more leeway that gamers were gonna have. And again, based on anecdotally what I saw, the reception to Destiny and the reception to Anthem completely night and day. If you ask me, in my opinion, I think Anthem getting a Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn type of hard reset would do the game wonders. I know a lot of people are writing off Anthem as this game that can never make a recovery, but guys, I've seen it with Final Fantasy XIV, I saw it with No Man's Sky. If the studio puts enough work into it and they remedy the game and actually make it a compelling game, people will come back. Now, it's going to be difficult with Anthem because it is an EA title. It is a game that was panned so hard. However, people at the end of the day, they do like a good underdog story. They do like the story of a game being so terrible, the studio going back to the drawing board and making that game so much better. However, I think it would only work if the game was made better through a free update. You can't charge another $60 for it. I just don't think that would work for all of those people that already bought Anthem for $60 and then you releasing Anthem 2 for another $60. I don't think that would fly. However, as a free update, I do think there's some potential there. Alright, also, in other BioWare news, Schreier also reports that the next Mass Effect game is in very early development at the company's Edmonton studios, with longtime series producer Mike Gamble as director. Of course, don't expect to see Mass Effect 5 for a while, as the next Dragon Age is still slated to be BioWare's next thing. So if we're thinking the next Dragon Age is going to be out in 2021, 2022, maybe even pushed to 2023, the next Mass Effect is not going to be out for a very long time. At the earliest probably being 2023, and then you could probably go as far as 2024, 2025. And if we're talking about games from 2023, 2024, 2025, that's not something I am really going to get enamored with. However, a new Mass Effect game is something I definitely want to see. I know that Mass Effect is another one of those franchises that, yes, does have that negative stigma attached to it after the train wreck that was Mass Effect Andromeda, and maybe even the Mass Effect 3 ending. However, I harken back to the quality days of Mass Effect. Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2, even the majority of Mass Effect 3. I know that the ending initially left a lot to be desired, but Mass Effect 3 as a whole I thought was a rather good game. Mass Effect 2 obviously has a special place in a lot of our hearts, and many of us consider that to be one of, if not the best RPG of all time. It was that good of a game, and I do hope that one day we can get Mass Effect back at that caliber level. Unfortunately, after Mass Effect Andromeda, it's gonna take a lot to win gamers back over and get back on board with Mass Effect, but I'd love to see Mass Effect make a comeback. And even with Andromeda, it's not like Andromeda was the worst RPG in the world. I know, me coming to the defense of Andromeda is probably to some of you guys absolutely hysterical, but it's not like I thought that game was a 2 or 3 out of a 10. I thought it was a 5 or a 6. I don't know how much that means to you guys, but I did think it was a playable game. Was it a far cry from the initial trilogy? Absolutely. It was not at that level at all, but if you go back into it and you play it without the idea that it's a Mass Effect game and you just go into it as a sci-fi RPG, there are some quality elements to the game. Obviously, it's not a great game. I wouldn't even say it's a good game, but it is an okay game. But there you have it. It looks like a new Mass Effect game is very early on in development. Hopefully, that all comes together much better than Andromeda. Alright, moving on from that, Ben Studio talks a little bit about Days Gone. Despite a relatively mixed critical reception, and I would have to say it was mostly positive with Days Gone, it did end up with what, like a 71 or a 73 on Metacritic, which overall is pretty decent. Ben Studio's Days Gone went on to become one of the most successful PlayStation 4 exclusives to date, topping sales charts around the globe, and this week the developer took home 2 golden joysticks and teased a potential sequel when asked about plans for the future. Noting, quote, "Oh yeah, it's certainly a passion of ours, and that's what we've always wanted to do," studio director Chris Reese told Games Radar. "This is a world that we want to keep breathing more life into and explore many different avenues, so who knows, we'll see." Ben Studio's next title is already in pre-production planning phase. If a developer's LinkedIn profile update is anything to go by, senior staff lighting artist Jeremy Vickery, who previously led the lighting team on Days Gone, noted in his resume that he's involved in the upcoming project as well. Back in June, Ben Studio published a series of job advertisements looking for a staff to work on an unannounced AAA game that will set the PlayStation 4 apart from the rest. Many speculated that a Days Gone sequel is in the works, but considering the jobs were advertised shortly after the game's release, it's possible that the developer is working on a brand new IP, and some are still hoping for a revival of Siphon Filter, which is something I would absolutely love to see. And while it was noted that it would be a PlayStation 4 game, at this point Sony been working on a title I would imagine would be a PlayStation 5 game. I think the major PlayStation 4 games that are going to come out the rest of this generation have already been pegged. We've got Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, a couple of smaller titles here and there, but Sony Ben's next title, if it's a AAA game, I imagine it will be a PlayStation 5 title, and if it's a Days Gone 2, I do think there's a lot of potential in that. Remember, and this is something I talked about when talking about Ben Studio and the release of Days Gone, this was their first game on a major console in a very long time. Prior to Days Gone, their last game was Uncharted Golden Abyss. Sure, Uncharted Golden Abyss for Vita standards was a technically impressive game. It was nothing like Days Gone. It was nothing of the big budget caliber that Days Gone was. And for them to deliver something of quality level of Days Gone, their first time out of the gate, or their first time in a very long time working on a big budget console and on the PlayStation 4, I thought it was a rather good game. Yeah, it's not on the caliber and the level of a God of War, a Spider-Man, and Uncharted 4, but that's just because Sony has set the bar so incredibly high that it's hard for games to reach that level. I mean, think about how excellent those games are, and that's a testament to Sony's first party and how talented they are, but you shouldn't take anything away from Days Gone. I thought overall the game was still quite good, and I do think there's a lot of potential in developing a sequel, especially if Ben Studio does want to expand on it. I think the world, the lore, and the story could be expanded upon, whatever the case may be. If Ben Studio is committed to doing a Days Gone 2, I think it would just be better than the first game, and if you're going to improve upon the first game and offer an even more compelling open-world adventure out of a Days Gone 2, that would be very exciting. Whatever the case may be, if they do Days Gone 2, if they do a brand new IP, if they decide to bring back an older IP like a Siphon Filter, I would be all on board. I think Ben Studios is incredibly talented, and I don't think that 71 to 73 that Days Gone got on Metacritic tells the entire story, because I think they have a lot of life in them to do something at the caliber and at the level of a God of War, of a Spider-Man, of a Uncharted 4. I think they can become a studio that's regarded in that tier, and I think all of Sony's first party can really get to that tier. They just need to be consistent with the game output. But that's my 2 cents on that, and that's going to conclude this video. Again, Anthem 2.0 and the next Mass Effect are reportedly in the works over at BioWare, and it looks like Ben Studio isn't closing the door on the idea of a Days Gone sequel, suggesting that this is a world they want to keep breathing more life into. That's going to conclude this video. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.